I grew up in a very dysfunctional household. Um, from the time I was very, very young, probably 4 years old, there were 7 of us, and my mom would leave us at a motel and go off on a drunken spree for 2 or 3 days at a time and just leave us children there to fend for ourselves. And it's no surprise that my older brothers and sisters left the house when they were 14, 15, 16, I'm not sure, but it was very young. They just couldn't handle it. So it got to a point where there were just 3 of us children, and my mom was an alcoholic, and when she got drunk, she just got this wild, crazy look in her eye, and she would just do the craziest things. I remember one time, it was late at night, and we're on a freeway, and she's just, let me out of the car. The guy that we called my stepdad at the time, he pulls over, and she's just like I'm in the back seat, and this is at night, and the cars are screaming by on the freeway, and she's out on the freeway trying to flag somebody down. Hey, stop! And he's like holding her back. I'm 5 years old, that's the kind of experience, just drunken fights and throwing dishes at all hours of the night, slamming them against the wall and shattering them. I would get up in the morning and there'd be shards of dishes all over the floor, from when they were throwing them. And it's probably safe to say that it really affected me emotionally. And I don't know if that was the cause of depression that I felt all growing up, but I'm sure it certainly didn't help. I was discouraged. I didn't have a vision of what I was doing, and I just wanted to put out my thumb and not ever be seen again. Just go hitchhike somewhere and not have to deal with my family, who I hated. It had no interest in maintaining any of those relationships. I was resentful and bitter and angry and depressed. And I was done with it. And I remember laying in bed one night, and something deep inside me I knew that all the things that I learned about Jesus were true. Everybody in my family were on drugs, they were alcoholics, and I didn't want to be that way. Who wants to grow up to be an alcoholic and a drug addict? Not me. Great, I think I'll be a Christian. That was kind of my reasoning. And I realized that wasn't going to cut it with God. He just showed me that was the wrong foundation. And as of that night, I just kind of started over. When I was at this university, I had a good friend. He had been a missionary, and he'd come back to school to finish his degree. And he could see I had problems, the resentfulness and anger and bitterness that I had towards my family. And one day we're sitting on the steps of our dorm, and he's talking to me, and he says, "You ever thought about going to talk to one of the campus psychologists?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And mostly because of the stigma of having to do that. But he said, "Because I did, and it really helped me, and I think it'll help you." And I said, "Why can't Jesus be enough?" And that was in my mind of, can't Jesus be enough to heal me of whatever was wrong with me? Why can't Jesus just be enough? Why do I have to go see some psychologist? And I really felt that. I really felt like Jesus can, whatever is wrong with me, that Jesus can, he ought to be able to take care of this. Looking back 25 years later, I can see that the body of Christ living daily and talking with people and interacting with them and opening my life to them and getting their input for me, which is not always pleasant, was a major component in, I feel like, healing that depression that I felt. And the kind of depression I'm talking about is, I remember when I was probably 16 coming back from a Bible study, and I had several days of what I later started referring to as the dark sky, of just this gloom. I was looking out over these grape vineyards, and just the gloom of overcast. And all of a sudden it just lifted, and the day was bright and the birds were tweeting, and I was like, wow, this is great. I'm excited. I didn't actually realize what had happened at the time, but just that oppression, that dark sky, would just follow me throughout my days. And I really believe that through dealing with the other things in my life that were not like Jesus, that has helped heal me of that oppressive gloom in my life. And it seems like in the last 5 years is when it's really been, that I've really been healed of it, because the last 5 years have been very difficult. I had a situation at work that I was being unfairly persecuted, and it really caused me a lot of pain. And through it, some brothers were helping me see that I wasn't totally innocent in that situation at work, that I could be snide and cynical at times. And I'm like, me be snide and cynical? I mean, I was shocked, although I knew it was true. And so I was embarrassed and humiliated that they were actually saying it to me, if that makes sense. I was a little taken back, and like, I am that kind of person. And I had to own up to it, that there was something in me that when offended or slighted, that I would have a reaction. And that was painful. And then I ended up actually getting fired from that job. And if I had actually been like Jesus, that probably wouldn't have happened. I probably would still be working there. And maybe, who knows? But that was a very painful time in my life. At the same time, it was really important, because that same snideness and cynicalness extended from that day on the steps of why can't Jesus be enough? And I realized healing comes, and there's a phrase that somebody mentioned recently that says, it takes courage to endure the pain of self-discovery. And I see that the magic of Jesus, and I call it magic because miracles, I think, are kind of trite. People use miracles. They use magic too, but the magic of being healed by Jesus through the interaction with these brothers, it's real, it's tangible. It actually healed my heart in a way that you think of being healed as being some sort of, soothe and calming, but my healing was more through childbirth. And I was actually sitting at a table and listening to some music, and it occurred to me, it's like, wow, that I haven't seen the dark sky in a while. I'm free. Knowing that my daughter has never experienced drunken fits of rage is just so incredible, incredibly awesome to me. She's never had to deal with all the junk that I did, the emotional trauma. And it took me 40 years before I felt like I was comfortable in my own skin. And I see that she has the advantage of not having to deal with all that and start from a place of like the old saying goes, standing on shoulders. You know, she's got a big head start from where I was, and it's exciting to see where she's going to go, what she's going to do.